Welcome back, everyone, to the FloTrack podcast, FloTrackPodcast at gmail.com. I'm Kevin. He's Gordon. And in case you're wondering, yes, we are in that portion of the country that you may have seen on the news. A lot of our colleagues impacted by lack of power, including our producer, Alon, which is why this might look or sound a little bit different. But, Gordon, you and we're some of the fortunate ones who have had power throughout this snowpocalypse here in Texas.
Yeah, I'm on the border of the power, too, because you go 2 blocks south of me, and they don't have power. So I have friends who live 400 meters away, and they haven't had power since 2 a.m. yesterday. So it's been a long time without power, and I get it. I'm from the Northeast. Like, I grew up in crazy winter storms. I would have, Pennsylvania storms all over the place. And it's kind of funny to make fun of Texans for not being able to handle snow. But the main difference is there are no plow trucks in Texas. There are no salt trucks in Texas. And the houses aren't built for snow. So, hey.
Why would they be? That would be a huge waste of money, all of those things, right? Like, people in different parts of the country deal with different sorts of weather, and they have preparation and equipment for that weather. And when you get a once every 50 years, 100 years storm, it's going to catch people flat-footed.
Like, imagine if a volcano went off in New York City and everyone was like, hey, New York City, you should have been prepared for the volcano. They'd be like, no, you're not supposed to prepare for volcanoes in New York City. And, some people were like, hey, we should have figured it out. But I did try to drive somewhere yesterday. I drove like a mile, and it took like 2.5 hours because everyone was super slow and pausing on bridges and couldn't get up hills and stuff like that. Because I thought, like, the amount of snow, I was like, oh, it's just like a regular snow day. I can go to a store and get food or something. Nope. The entire system shut down. So being from the Northeast, I did not think it would be this bad, but it is. But it's fine.
Yeah, it's a little apocalyptic out there. I go outside, I talk to my neighbors, and they're like, yes, we walked to the gas station to try to find food, and the line was out the door, and everybody has shovels, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. You said you went a couple blocks, and you had people without power. Across the street, literally across the street, does not have power in my neighborhood. It's very strange. They were all dark at night. And our side, because people had their living room or dining room lights on when they were eating dinner, I went out there at about 6 at night, and they're just completely
rubbing it in their faces. It's like, ha, look at us. We have light. We don't even need it.
I feel I need heat is what is the main thing. No, I feel incredibly fortunate. I can't imagine. And I got a text from our producer, Alon, before we started. Like I said, he's still without power, hopefully by tomorrow. But that's why we didn't have the pod yesterday, in case folks were wondering. So we're a little late on this weekend recap where so much happened, both professionally and collegiately, probably more so collegiately. So I wanted to run through the top 5 performances on the college side and the pro side. I think, though, we should start with the college kids, right, Gordon? I feel like they might have deserved top billing based on how quickly they ran over the weekend.
Yeah, for sure. College first. You go to college before you go pro, so we talk about college before we talk about the pros.
Yeah. So I think number 1 here, we'll go 1 to 5 on this one. We're not going to make people sit in suspense. Not that they were really sitting in suspense, but I think number 1's got to be the Oregon Milers on the men's side. Cooper Tier and Cole Hawker both run 350, and Charlie Hunter 353 behind them. Hunter went on later on that same meet in Arkansas to run 145.5 in the 800. So Tier smashes the collegiate record. Hawker goes under the old mark as well, too. I know this caught you off guard because you were screenshotting results and texting it to the group.
Did not catch me off guard too much. Okay, that's maybe controversial to say, but I think the overarching take after this weekend, highlighted by Oregon's 350 milers, was like, what is happening? What is going on? Like, why are they running so fast? This is abnormal. We see a high school kid run 357, and now we see Oregon milers run 350. What is going on? Some people are sprinkling in it's the shoes. Like, that's a thing, right? But I really think it's a factor of multiple. I think it's super explainable. Number one. Well, this was my first thing. All right. Who was rolling the most last indoor season in college?
Last indoor season?
2020.
So 2020 indoor? I mean, the NAU men?
Yeah, but like specifically individual
well.
woman and man on the distance side, would you say we're rolling the most? Like, we're like, wow, having like impressive regular seasons.
You'll have to refresh my memory.
It was
because it was so long ago.
Danny Jones of Colorado, who was running a fast 800 mile and all the way up to 5K. And it was Tyler Day.
Right.
Broke the American Collegiate 5K record. You know, he was dominating. He was running sub 4 miles, all that stuff, right? What do they have in common? Both of them didn't run cross country. They were just like super fresh for an indoor season to go all in on indoor, right? We are seeing a bunch of Tyler Days and a bunch of Danny Joneses in 2021 because they didn't have a hard cross-country grueling season for them. They just got to peak for indoor. And not only did they get to peak for indoor, they had the longest build-up in the history of build-ups for an indoor season. No one has ever built up this much for an indoor season in a history. And this number of people, right? Because there's no outdoors. And I think the fact of a long build-up, the fact of no cross-country, the fact that there's this mindset of nothing to lose. Like, a lot of times there's a lot of pressure on these athletes because top 16 is a really hard mark to get, and you're thinking about who's going to run. Is my time fast enough? Oh, I need to run even more faster this year than any year before. And that pressure of being top 16, I feel like, is gone this season because everyone is kind of like, hey, let's see what happens, right? We still have cross country. Oh, Luis Grijalva's not running indoor. Oh, Yared Nuguse isn't running indoor. Oh, okay. Weird. Oh, BYU may or may not. There's all this like dynamics of like, you know, there's just a lot of less like stress on the specific season because it's spread out between two different seasons. I think that's a factor. So mentally, it's stress-free. Physically, they're the they're sharpest they've ever been before. And then the last one I think is these times make sense when you put them in a record book that involves more than 3 months of the season, 3 months of the year. What I'm saying is indoor record books are naturally skewed because an indoor record book only includes times that only happen 3 months out of the year. It only includes times among athletes who are rust-busting their season, and it only includes times of athletes who only compete that have indoor tracks, right? It doesn't include, like, Usain Bolt isn't in the indoor record books, right? There's a reason for that because he's like, indoor is not a real sport. You know what I mean? But I think all that factors into, like, 350 is great, and it is, but, like, it makes sense. Like, we should be running 350 miles. I just look at it, I'm like, this is what Americans should be running when it comes to a mile. This is what they should be. We should be able to see BYU run sub 1330. Like, we just don't do it because we kind of like, we only run up to the competition and we don't feel the need to have to go that hard, right? You don't need to run a 350 mile indoors. You only need to run a 355 and then you're good. Get ready for the championship season. And we train our milers to be really good 335, 1500 meter runners. That's what we get. We're like, just be really good at kicking and be just 0.1 seconds on the Olympic standard, and you are a professional miler. No one is asking milers to be like they do internationally where they're running 330s all the time, right? Yeah. And this was the first time where Cole Hawker and Cooper Tier under Ben Thomas, they're like, fuck it, let's go for it. And they were like, we don't need to just run the bare minimum. We could just push ourselves because we have the skill set, we're fit, and they showed it. And I think it's just an avalanche. It's going to be more and more like this. We're, 10 years ago, 10 people break 4 every year. This year, already 30 guys have done it. It's just,
yeah.
And it's going to be like that now at even an elite more of elite level. Before this year, only 3 people were running sub 353. I think 5 years from now, every year, the top NCAA runner will be a sub 353 guy, I think. It'll just be continued. So I just think it's the multiple factors of just the development of the sport and the way we compartmentalize indoor season that we are treating indoor the most unique way we've ever done before because of the pandemic. End rant.
I was gonna say TED Talk. That was better than a rant. That was interesting. Listen, I'm the official Gordon Take evaluator. That was one of your better ones, particularly your first point about no cross country leading to really good indoor performances. I don't have any data in front of me to back it up, so I'll just take your word from you about the examples of Tyler Day and Danny Jones last year. That stayed on the rails the entire time. I'll give that like an 8.5 out of 10. That was good for a Gordon Take. Hey, but I am surprised by Cole Hawker. He's a young guy. He ran that fast 5,000 in the winter down in California, where Central got him at the line, and we're like, whoa, that was the race of Cole Hawker's life. Well, it turns out that was just Cole Hawker getting started, basically. Like, he's good. He is legitimately good. You don't run 350 by accident. Cooper Cheer we had heard of, so it's a little bit more explainable. But Hawker running that fast, that guy, that was a sensational run for him. And I guess part of that does come because he has these training with these guys. He's racing with these guys. Oregon set that event up. They had rabbits in there to go quick. I'll only add one thing because you can't TED Talk over a TED Talk. You just end up looking silly. And I don't have my turtleneck and my small microphone that comes in front of my face. There is the element of, you said, like, no pressure, right? But there's also the element of, hey, we need to make the most of every opportunity because we don't know when this meet is going to happen again, if another race is going to cancel. Like, we got to get our big times in now. So there's no playing around. We've heard coaches talk about this. Maybe in years past, Cooper Cheer and Cole Hawker run a 1K or something at that meet. And then they're like, we're going to make an assault at the collegiate record at the Milrose Games or something like that, or at another meet. But you have to take every opportunity you can because you never know when a meet is going to get canceled or postponed, or a season is going to get canceled or postponed. So the no pressure combined with the importance of every single meet, I think adds that element as well too. But yeah, if, like, not to steal your bit, but really good college runners probably should be running around that time relative to the rest of the world.
Yeah. What do you think Cole and Cooper would have ran if they would have been entered in the mile at Milrose Games? Do you think they still would? Do you think they still would have ran 350?
I think they would have run. I think they could have broken the collegiate record. I don't think they would have been as fast. This Fayetteville track seems fast, and I know we'll touch on this later when we get to the pro side of things. Fast tracks matter indoors. It just does. We've just seen enough evidence of it. A degree here of the bank, a degree there. Like, it actually matters, and we have enough evidence that Fayetteville, we would put it on the fast track side of things. It's probably not BU, because nothing is BU, because the BU track actually moves. In lane 1, there's the conveyor belt factor.
It's just constantly tilting downward. It's like an optical illusion where you're always running downward.
Exactly. You stare at it long enough, you get really dizzy because you don't know what you're looking at. It's quick. So I don't know, but I definitely think that, if you're beating the mark by a couple seconds, I definitely think they could have done it at Milrose.
Well, I'm thinking about, like, the idea that, is it easier to run 350 in a race where there's only 3 or 4 people, they're all your teammate, and everyone knows exactly what everyone is doing. There's no, like, surprises. Probably. Whereas if you throw Hawker and Tier into, like, a 12-man indoor mile field, you might just get lost, and, like, you're trying to get position. No one is trying to help you.
Yeah. Well, that's why I always think when people look at these indoor world records, and I say indoor for a specific reason because of what you said, positioning is so important, and it's so easy to lose time on a corner. And we saw it with Gudov Sagai when she ran the 1500, world record, and no one was near. And you're like, man, imagine if she had help. But that doesn't always actually benefit you because they're going to get in the way and you have to go around, and then you're worried about racing. Whereas, if you just pre-program it, you basically, Ben Thomas in Oregon just set it and forget it, basically. He said, this is where I want the splits. This is where you need to be. Go. And then everybody did what they're supposed to, and then that was the end results. I'd love to go on for 2 hours on just this topic, because now I'm thinking, okay, we already knew Oregon was going to be ringing up big points in the men's mid-distances at the NCAA Indoor Championships. I want to know what it means, in your opinion, for that. But unfortunately, we can save that for a later pod this week, because we still need to recap all these other. We did one of the 10 things that we're counting down, and because of your speech, we need to keep moving here, Gordon. Sorry. Number 2, let's go Texas A&M women 4x4 collegiate record 3:26.27, and a thing Mo splits a 50.27 there, which you're still thinking she doesn't run the 400. You still think she runs the 800?
Yeah, she's Devin Dixon. Right? That's what Devin Dixon. Devin, split 43 seconds, and it was second to Michael Norman in that crazy, or maybe it split 42. I don't know what he split something crazy.
No, it's 43
low. I think it's just she's going to be a 400 meter star in the 4x4, but when it comes to it, she's going to be always getting ready for the 800. In this event specifically, this meet specifically, it makes sense because if Cherokee Young is another great 400 meter runner, it's easier to get 20 points by going 1-1. That's more than going 1-2 and getting 18 points. So you kind of would rather give Cherokee a chance to take. If you take a thing Mo out of the 400, Cherokee Young finishes one place better. So it's worth doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just remarkable, though, that she could actually be in contention for win both the 400 and 800 in her first year. I know that double's really tough, and it's easier to say it, and it's easier just to have the season's best mark than it is to actually do it. But yeah, they smashed that mark. More collegiate records here. We'll just keep counting them down. Number 3, I guess I would go Casey Lightfoot, 6 meters, excuse me. 6 feet in the pole vault, not very good. Although you getting over anything in the pole vault, you have my respect. 6 meters in the pole vault. And then Turner Washington of Arizona State set the collegiate record in the indoor men's shot put, 21.85. So I'll put those at 3 and 4, Gordon.
Yeah, think about this. They both broke the collegiate records that were owned by arguably the 2 most dominant athletes right now in that event. Ryan Krauser, I believe, had the indoor record, right? Didn't he? In the shot put?
Did Oderdahl never get it?
I think Ryan Krauser had it. And then, obviously, Mondo had the pole vault. When you look at the current landscape internationally, who is the best shot?
Well, Lightfoot had it. Well, Lightfoot broke his own
record. He broke his own record, but he broke Mondo's record from it.
Yeah.
But, right now, it's Mondo and Krauser. Those are the 2 stars of the now. And now, currently in college, both of their college records are broken now by Lightfoot and Turner. It makes you think, whoa. It's just it's not just any collegiate record. You're breaking the collegiate record of guys who have gone on to be all-time greats and are currently in their all-time great prime. So it makes it interesting for the next 4 years, I think, is another young guys coming in and to challenge. It's kind of weird to call him the old guard because Mondo is not old by any means, but it's good. It's good to have that people are constantly, that Krauser and Mondo aren't just running away with it, that there's new talent coming in every year that has a chance to be truly competitive to the current greats. So, and Casey Lightfoot, greatest name in all of track and field right now.
Krauser's actually, well, now he's going to be tied for third. He was tied for second with Ryan Whiting. Oderdahl did have it indoors. So it's 21.81 for Oderdahl. Krauser and Ryan Whiting were 21.73. So Turner Washington moves ahead of all those gentlemen. Yeah. And
apologies.
He didn't even have the school record before this because Ryan Whiting had it at 21.73. That's a tough all-time list to make if you're at Arizona State and you're throwing the shot. Number 5, I'll let you pick. Is it the BYU men with Mance, Klinger, and Garnica going 13:28, 13:28, 13:29, or is it Sage Herda and Chrissy Gear in that Arkansas mile going 4:31?
Well, the mile is two different. There's two different 4:31s. Sage Herder ran it in Iowa State.
Oh,
and Chrissy
yeah,
Gear
but
ran it.
Sorry. 4:30. Is it the 4:31 milers or the 13:28, 29 5K people?
I mean, it would have to be the 13:20. Three guys under 13:30 on the same team is more impressive than two individuals running 4:31. I think we should have more women running 4:31s. I think the sub 4, for some reason in society, like running society, we equivalate sub 4 as the same thing as sub 4:30, and it's not the same. Like more people should. I don't know. It's like a weird thing. Anyway, I just feel like.
Anyway, keep going. Stay focused, Gordon. You're doing.
I think
good.
that we should have more. We should have more women running 4:30, low 4:30s than we currently have.
Well, the reason I bring it up is because that event was pretty slow going, and then now we have a clear favorite.
Yes.
Correct?
Yeah, it's a lot better.
Co-favorites.
Yeah, it's a lot better than it was 3 weeks ago, and Gear and Herder are going to give some respect to that event.
Herder's legit too.
Herder's legit.
Right? Herder's it's not a one race wonder. She's been really good for a couple of years, and you could see her winning a national title. Okay,
and it makes sense for her to do the mile because there's no point of going up against a thing though. So she's like, I'm not doing the 800 anymore. It's getting a mile.
Right.
The BYU. I think people look at that and you think about. I think about it in cross country terms, right? You're like, whoa,
because you have them ranked 9th, right? BYU men.
The BYU
they dropped
is second.
another. Okay.
But they clearly have a really good big three now, right? Klinger and Garnica running sub 13:30 is like what? I mean, Klinger you can make sense around it. Mance, it makes 100% sense. 100% sense. Mance probably could have gone even faster. In a way, Mance was probably helping the other two. But I look at it, it's like, whoa, they have a big three. I do think, though, when your number 4 is, 30 seconds back from that, it does open the doors to think, okay, BYU is going to be good, but they're currently now, they're 4.5. Even though they're running 13:59, you just think that, are they going to be able to survive in a 10K if they're 4.5 or that far back from their big three? Because NAU can match up evenly with BYU's big three. I mean, they just did it recently at the Nevada meet, but Gavalva and Mance are even, Young and Klinger are even, and now Garnica and Abdiham and Nur, you could say, are even. So one thing I think I take from the race is, all right, BYU, they're going to be in it. They're going to be in it through 3. The question is, will BYU show up with a 4th and then subsequently a 5th? I remember doing like some research. The most important runner on a cross-country team is the 4th man. If you have the best 4th man in the country, if you compare...
It's the most predictive.
It's most predictive, yeah. If you have the best 4th man in the country, you're going to win the national title. That's just how it works. So if your 4th man is better than everyone else's 4th man, you're good. Right now, BYU's 4th man, I guess right now, is Clayson Shumway, who ran 13:59. Clayson ran a good cross-country meet in 2018. Pretty long ago, but...
Yeah.
Clayson Shumway's a good 4th man. I mean, when you look at the resume, he has a pretty good resume, but he just ran 13:59, so you don't know. But right now, if you can beat Clayson Shumway, you can beat BYU. That's just how it works. And who has a 4th man that can beat Clayson Shumway? Maybe NAU, obviously. Arkansas, Wisconsin, we don't know. But that's what I took from that.
You don't want to overcomplicate it, but the gap from 3 to 4 looks pretty big. Now, that's better because Garnica's gotten better, and you'd rather have Garnica be at 13:29 than have him be at 13:39, and then make that gap from 3 to 4 look smaller. But what it does do is just make it very clear that those are the top 3, and then they need to figure out those last 2 scorers. And it doesn't help to have a great 6 and 7. What you need, you'd rather have 2 guys that you can count on there in those final 2 spots. Speaking of BYU, and I know you started doing exitology, your forecast of who's going to make the meet, and we could save that to talk more about it tomorrow or whenever we do another podcast again. But the BYU women ran some fast times this weekend too, which I'm assuming you put into your formula and they come out of the weekend as a stronger number one, perhaps, than they were before?
Not really, because I feel like their track times kind of validated where I had them finishing a week prior.
Okay.
Anna Camp I had as a top 10, and she goes out there and runs the fastest 3K in the nation unattached. Hey, you're top 10 now. Like, I think there was a lot of a lot of confirmation that came out of BYU's 3Ks for the women. I think BYU still, they're going to have a strong 1-2 punch in Whitney Orton and Anna Camp.
Mm-hmm.
But the way the field is looking right now, I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. And BYU's 3, 4, 5, it's not going to be necessary for them all to be like top 40 type runners. Mm-hmm. Their fifth could be in the 90s, and potentially they could still win. So we'll know more after this upcoming weekend. A weekend that I was supposed to actually be there right now. I was supposed to go to Vegas yesterday, but I'm not there. So hopefully I go to Vegas in a few days. But when we see New Mexico and a better Stanford, we could get a better idea of cross-country season on the women's side. But yeah, I was super impressed by Anna Camp. No one's going to really notice it because it's not going to show up on the T-First page because she's unattached. But
you found
it.
You found it.
Found it. Of course I found it.
Can't hide.
Can't hide from me. Yeah. No, found it. Yeah.
Yeah. What's interesting about BYU, and there's a couple other teams in this position too, a lot of their big name runners either have cross or they have indoor. So they're not mixing it all, and they don't have a lot of hard decisions to make. For example, Whitney Orton has cross, shouldn't have indoor. So there's no debate about, should she run the mile? Should she anchor the DMR? And then should she come back and do cross country? Don't need to worry about that. Courtney Wayment, who was top 10 last year in cross, she's out of cross, but she has indoor. Yeah. So you don't need to worry about figuring out how to double her back or anything. Camp just has cross, doesn't have indoor. Arkansas women are in a similar position a little bit with Izzo being out of cross and being able just to focus on indoor. But the men, it seems like all those top teams and all those big players, there's a lot more spillover with the men, the BYU men, the NAU men, Yared Naguse, like we've talked about. A lot of those big name runners they have eligibility in both. So they could do both. The Cooper Tiers of the world, the Cole Hawkers of the world.
Speaking of the Oregon men, they ran a cross-country meet without Cooper Tier, without Cole Hawker, Reed Brown, and Charlie Hunter, and they got smoked by Portland. Like, it wasn't even close. They're not a real team without their top 4 guys.
Well, yeah, they're not running their best people.
Here's the thing. What do you think Cooper and Hawker and all these guys, do you think they're going to run Pac-12 cross-country to at least qualify their team? Because Oregon doesn't have any resume points right now, and if Oregon shows up at Pac-12s on March 5th, a week out from indoors, and doesn't run their stars, they're not going to finish high enough to be selected by the committee. What does Oregon do? Do you think they try to? Do they want to keep Cooper Tier and Hawker fresh for indoors, or do they make them run an 8K to at least get the Oregon team to cross country nationals?
I think they're good enough to where they can just run a tempo run on that 8K, and for them, it's a different type of stress than running an all-out mile. Probably a little welcomed, and that'll get them there because I think they want to get there because I think they want to have options to double them back. Now, answer me this, though. Obviously, Tier is fine for the mile. Has he qualified in everything that he needs to qualify in, or do they need to run more indoor races?
So they haven't done the 5K. And I think we keep on thinking that Cooper Tier is going to 5K, but I don't think they're going to. I think this is what they're doing. I think Hawker and Tier will run the mile. Hawker, Tier, and Reed Brown would run the mile. And then
Charlie Hunter runs the 8.
Charlie Hunter and Luis Peralta run the 8. And then whatever combination of those guys runs the DMR, right? Based on how they feel after their prelims. And then they run their finals and the 3K. So I think Cooper Tier and Cole Hawker won the 5K, which if you think about that, the 5K now is becoming more and more open because if Tier and Hawker aren't running the 5K, Wesley Kiptoo doesn't have a mark yet.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let me look up Festus Legat's PB. Hold up 1 second.
It's basically BYU has an opportunity. They're going to be
to go 1 through 8.
They're going to be tempted to go a little bit harder in the indoor and run a bunch of indoor 5Ks. And
you think?
Yeah, I think BYU is going to look at the indoor 5K list, and they're going to be like, all right, it's BYU, and a Moyne Chem boy, and then a bunch of 1340 guys.
Okay.
That's going to be interesting.
I mean, it makes more sense for them to do that than the 3,000 because then you get an extra day of rest.
I wonder.
Correct.
Yeah, I wonder what.
Oh man, I just looked at the list. You're right. Oh man.
Yeah.
Mance, Klinger, Garnica, Eric Hammer from Colorado State ran a converted 1336, which was actually a 1416.
He proved it. He ran a 1337 or 8 at Iowa State. So he.
Oh yeah. Well, no, I'm not. Yeah. Oh, I'm not saying he didn't prove it. I'm just saying that's his top mark. It has an @ sign and a hashtag next to it, a number sign. So I gotta read those. Then Amon Kemboy 1338, Adrian Wildschet 1339, Boyd from Arkansas 1340, Jacob McLeod 1341. Matt Young, Arkansas, 1342. Colton Johnson, Washington State, 1343. This opens the door for the host team, too.
Yeah, Arkansas, yeah.
Arkansas could collect a whole bunch of points there in the 5,000. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that Oregon wouldn't try to get somebody in there.
I think they want to run the DMR. I think Cooper Tier would rather do a DMR than be in a 5K, win a 5K.
Well, they're fine. They can choose, right? It's not going to – they can sacrifice points somewhere because their margin is so big. I think that's what they're going to do. I think they are going to try to qualify for cross country. Robert Johnson gave that hint when he said how important cross country is to the school.
Yeah.
Just the tradition of cross country. So I think they will do it. They'll qualify. Whether or not they're on the starting line in Stillwater.
They'll be on the starting line.
That's another question.
You're done. Go for it. They're not going to be broken.
You're not done. You got the Olympic trials in a couple months.
Is one 10K in March going to really be the reason why they don't have a step in June?
Every 10K in March counts, Gordon. Every cross-country 10K in March. I've told you this time and time again. That's the rule. I'm just saying I wouldn't guarantee it. It's interesting. So, whose record did Cooper Tier break?
Ed Ches.
Do you consider Ed Ches a miler?
No.
Do you consider Cooper Tier a miler?
No.
Isn't that weird? That the two people who have the mile record are just guys who were 5,000 meter runners, 3K runners.
I mean, that's because the best milers don't try to run fast. The best milers are centroids, and they go out there and they win the Olympic 1500 in a time that a high schooler could have ran because they jogged the first 3 laps. And not that high school would have been in that race and would have won. Obviously, the time-wise, a high school equal running it evenly. But
Gordon.
The best milers don't. I mean, some do internationally, but the best milers don't try to run extremely fast for 4 laps. They try to run
Josh Kerr ran fast.
Conserve as much.
Josh Kerr ran fast.
No, they conserve as much energy as possible for the first 75% of the race, and then they use it all in the final 25%. That's how they're trained to do it.
Yeah, but what's stopping them from getting in a time running a different style of race when they have the opportunity at a Brian Clay or at a Arkansas indoor meet? It's just interesting.
Rabbiting, it's hard to get. The one thing we talk about Swarthmore meet where Kyle Merber ran at 3:35 and everyone was like short track. The reason why that was a crazy meet 4 or 5 years ago was because Nick Willis was willing to rabbit them for 1,400 meters. It's hard to get a rabbit for,
Right, and who has rabbits?
Oregon.
At the disposal.
Oregon.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know that wasn't...
They had They had 2 rabbits. They had a rabbit through 1K and they had a rabbit go through 1,200.
Yeah.
I think Reed Brown
ran through 1,200.
It's the
Bowerman Track Club effect. Yeah. I mean, I know when Ches ran his, was that at Milrose, I want to say, though, right?
No, it was at BU.
It was?
Yeah.
Man, he ran 3:49 at BU, too.
Yeah.
You ran both those of you?
Fast track,
Okay.
man.
All right. Okay, men are pro side of things. Top 5 on the pros. Number 1, number 1 should be let's just say Beatrice Chepkoech, 14:43 road world record, boom in the 5K.
Is it the actual world record or is it the fake we start over world record?
You know what? That was such a stupid decision that I've decided not to even remember what they used to be. Or maybe I should. Okay. Anyway, it's 14:43. It's on the roads. It's fast. Joshua Cheptegei did not break the world record. So that's notable when he doesn't break the world record. He ran 13:14. But if we're just doing the top 5 indoor performances and we're not talking about road stuff, I'm going to go Brazier number 1, 1:44.21 out of the box, beats it by 100th. Kind of cool moment when he crossed the line. He saw it equaled the time, and he's like, and then they ticked it down. He's like, ooh. It was out of like that Alonzo Mourning meme when he's on the bench, and he's like,
yeah.
I guess he wins the proxy war with Hopple, maybe. I don't know. Was it a draw? I guess it was a draw because Hopple ran fine.
I have a take where...
Don't push it. You're 1 for 1 on takes.
It's not. It's not an American record if it's your own record that you're breaking. It's not a new American.
Okay, that's a bad take.
No,
let's just keep moving.
Like,
keep going. Number 2.
I know it's just hard to be. Yes, it's an American record, but like I feel like
fastest time an American's run.
Yeah, but like it's just his PR. That's all we're seeing. We're seeing him PB.
Yeah, but that's what happens if you're the American record holder. Your PBs count as American records.
Yeah, but like it's
that's
PB.
The reality.
But what's more?
Did it surprise you? I'm trying to get you off of this to save you. Did it surprise you that he ran that quickly in the debut?
No, I think that's his baseline. Like that's why I wasn't that impressed because it's like this is like his. That was like a B- run. Like he probably wanted more. He probably was like he probably thought he could have done more. He probably will do more down the road. He's so good that his benchmark is running within a percent point of the American record. That's just like what he's become. You know, it's like no one is impressed when LeBron James scores 25 points because it's like that's what he does. I'm going to score 25 points. And his normalcy is now elite, like, which is shows where he's at. So that's why it's like new American record. I'm like, it's just it's normal for him. Yeah.
Number 2, I'm gonna go, and you probably don't recognize this because Oliver Hoare is a 1,500-meter runner that ran fast, which according to you is impossible for some reason.
It's impossible for Americans.
Oh, okay. So even though he went to college in the U.S., because he's Australian, he was able to do it. He ran 3:32 to break the Aussie record. Jake Whiteman, your pick for the win, ran 3:34. And then Sam Tanner from UW set a New Zealand record in 3:34 as well, too. But I just thought Oliver Hoare never got his due, even though he was a national title winner, but he was the most versatile runner on the men's side in the NCAA because he was a mile champion, and then he was also one of the best cross-country runners in the nation as well, too. Season got wiped out last year in the spring, and then went on and ran some really impressive times last year after he signed, and he's just continued that. And a lot of guys and women, they can't make that step. They can't transition from NCAA champion into contender on the world scene, and I think Hoare is following a bit in the Josh Kerr model of somebody, a recent person who is taking really well to pro run and is jumping right in, because you could see him as a guy who finishes top 10 in the world or the Olympics this year.
Yeah, this mark that he threw down this early, it's definitely an indicator that he's going to survive the international waters. Like he hasn't peaked, right? And I think that's a good sign. He's not burnt out from the college days. You don't run this fast if you're coming out of college burnt out. You just don't do that. You don't show this freshness that he showed and the ability to do something this quick. It's kind of interesting looking back on his career too. I mean, 2018 is when he kind of surprised everyone and won outdoor 1500. And then 2019, he was the favorite in indoor, lost to Jordy Beamish, and then Jared Nuguse then all of a sudden had his breakout, and now it's like it's respectable to lose to Nuguse, right? And then 2020 happens, right? And that it's that whole his chance of like redemption for like, I was the NCAA championship, I got upset twice, I'm going to come back and show that I'm actually the best in the nation, and then that got taken away from him. So it's kind of nice that he's kind of harnessed all that energy and really put it into this new era for him. And right now he's starting off with a bang, which is pretty good.
He was always in the mix, which I think is one indication that the person has staying power beyond their collegiate years, because you're right. He has the upset win, and you think, well, it's the 1500, weird stuff happens. Let's see what he can do after that. And then he goes and he wins. Then he goes and he finished 17th in the 2018 cross-country championships, which is nuts for the reigning mile champion. Then indoors, you're right, he gets third in the race that Beamish won. And then outdoors, he finishes fourth. So he's always there. He doesn't have duds. And then his last cross-country championship, he's again 18th as well, too. And who knows? He could have won indoor and then won outdoor. And then we'd be like, oh, yeah, this is exactly how we expected it. But there was a little bit of uncertainty just because he didn't have the cherry on top at the end of his career. Okay, number 3, I'm going to do...
We got to say, Sam Tanner, is
Sam Tanner
is the NCAA favorite, in my opinion, not Cooper Tier or Cole Hawker.
See, this is what I was saying. I wanted to talk about this more, but I don't know if we're going to have... Okay, go.
No, I'm just saying. I think that needs to be said right now.
60 seconds. Go.
He's the NCAA favorite. I think his 330... What do you want? 4? 35? I think that's more impressive than the 350. I know technically his 1500 meter converts to a 351, so technically you could say 350 is better. But in that race, that's not controlled for him. He was in no man's land a lot of the times where he had to kind of like make a commitment. Am I going to go with the front group of Waitman and Hoare or stay back? He made a decision. He went for it. He didn't fall apart. I think Tanner is going to be championship ready more than Hawker or Tier. It's not against Hawker or Tier. I think just Tanner's, this kid's all time. I mean, he's 20 years old running Olympic standards. Nick Willis is super impressed by him. He's the future of New Zealand 1500 meter running him and I guess Jordy Beamish. So
I was to say, how quickly you forgot Jordy Beamish.
I got him in there. I got him at the end of the sentence.
Where did Jordy Beamish go to school?
Yeah. Okay, I get it.
Okay. Okay. Number 3.
Anyway,
I'm going to do off-distance American record holders here. I'm going to group 2 people together, Eleanor Purrier and Bryce Hopple. Hopple with the 2:16, Purrier with the 9:10. Some people on Twitter went a little crazy with the siren emojis after Bryce Hopple's American indoor 1K record. It was just an impressive run in terms of he managed to. It went slow, and he still got it. Again, I don't think many people were expecting. Like, we thought the world record might be possible, and they were talking about that in the lead up to the race, and the world record was a couple of seconds faster. For Purrier, with the 9:10 converts to something in the mid 8:30s for 3K, but she ran a lot of it solo with she beats Coburn by 5 seconds. I don't think this changes who Purrier. I don't think she's on this completely different level. I think she was always really freaking good, especially indoors last year where she ran the mile in 4:17. What's going to be interesting for her is 1,500, 5,000, or does she probably just does both at the trials and then see which ones she can make. But she's been this good for a while now.
Yeah.
And now she has an American record by her name.
The 9:10, when you compare it to what a 3K mark is, it's not a. Yeah. I mean, she's still in that second tier behind. She's leading the second tier behind Schweizer and Houlihan. Then there's no shame to that, right? Schweizer and Houlihan are both all-time greats. And
you're talking about the 5,000?
5,000/1,500. And I think it's good for Elle Purrier, where I think she recognized Schweizer and Houlihan will split up, I think, maybe, potentially. Mm-hmm. They might come together in the 5K, but I think she's like, all right, well, at least they're not going to take 2 spots on one team. they're either going to take one spot on one and one spot on the other. So it gives her more opportunities to make the Olympics. But yeah, I mean, it showed that she's in fit. She really hasn't lost a beat. She's going to be in the mix, and she is one of our top threes in whatever event she decides, whether it's the 15 or the 5K.
Yeah, I think she's probably has a bit better chance in the 5,000, just because that's a lower chance of Houlihan racing. And if it comes down, she seems like she could go with either way that race goes. If it goes tactical or if it goes hard from the gun, she seems equipped for it to go both directions. So I really like her in the 5,000. But I would also probably right now, I'd probably put her on the 1,500 meter team if I had to pick right now behind Houlihan and Simpson. Hopple's time, I mean, in the battle of the people who don't race each other, Brazier and Hopple, I guess you got to give the edge to Brazier because he beat Hopple's 800 meter time in the process of winning, or in the process of breaking the American record. But yeah, this socially distant racing is kind of a bummer.
Yeah, and I think Hopple, I think he got what he wanted out of indoors. He ran a strong 800, comes in, breaks the American record in the 1K. Rest in peace, David Torrance. I remember watching him break that American record in person. It was a very memorable event. It was one of my first meets that I covered at FloTrack. It was in 2014. It was like end of the year. It was like BU last chance meet, I believe. But I remember him going for it. He was super pumped. But yeah, I mean, Hopple, he got a record. He ran a strong 800. Now he's going to rest up and get ready for an outdoor season. And yeah, I wish he would have raced Brazier. I wish Brazier would have raced Hopple. But you can't always get what you want. But you know what to say. You can cry sometimes.
Yeah, they do say that. It's a credit to Hopple that we're talking about this as a rivalry.
Yeah.
That we're saying, well, why don't they race each other? Because we're not saying, why doesn't Donovan Brazier race against random 9th place person? It's like we're specifically saying it's Hopple because of how good Bryce Hopple's been. I mean, give me another person who won Worlds last year.
Who won Worlds?
Grant Holloway.
Grant Holloway, yeah.
We're not saying, well, why isn't Devin Allen racing Grant Holloway?
Yeah.
Or why isn't we're not even really saying that about anybody else in the field. But it's because Hopple's run so well that we're even bringing it up as an issue that they should be racing.
All right. I mean, they're both young, so their careers are long. But let's just only focus on 2021 and only focus on the Olympic trials and the Olympic Games. Because I really don't care who wins if they race each other in a Diamond League or whatever. Because it's like, once you take out the pressure, it's like, all right, whatever. The only thing that matters to these guys is winning the trials and winning Olympics. Do you see a scenario where Hopple beats him? And even if you see a scenario, do you think that scenario even has a percent likeliness of happening that's over like 15%?
I was the person who said Brazier's going to dominate the 800 for eternity last year. Might have gotten carried away a little bit with that take.
I mean, I think the way Hopple beats Brazier is that Brazier has to make a mistake.
I think it's greater than 15%, though. Yeah. I think we've seen enough in over the last, everything post Doha, right? You look at Doha and you're like, oh my gosh, Brazier breaks the American record, dominates the race. Hopple gets 4th. How did Hopple get 4th? He's 4th in the world. He's been racing since, January, and this 800 finals in October. How is he still doing this? And you think, okay, well, that's it. Like, finally, he's like run out of gas. He's run out of luck. And then he comes back, in 2020, and in that really short indoor season, he ran exceptionally well. And then he goes into Monaco, and he gets closer to Brazier than he ever had. I think he's got a shot. I think it's greater than 15%. I would put it at 28.4% right now, the next time they race.
What would be
because what the argument for Brazier is, okay, he's already way far ahead and we haven't seen his best. And I think that implies that we have seen Hopple's best just because we've seen him so much. but I don't think we have.
And I
think Hopple's got another gear too.
Hopple just has like that style of like he's emptying the gas tank every time. He's like, the last little drip of energy in that final 50 meters.
Yeah.
Whereas Brazier just looks like he's just a Tesla. And it's just like my battery power is not out. Like I might want to, I'm just always cruise control. So there's that moment. I think Brazier is now mature enough, not mature mentally, but mature in doing this types of races often enough that he knows the different types of, he knows his strengths and weaknesses. He knows if, so it's harder for Brazier to make a mistake than it was 3 or 4 years ago because he knows, he just, there's just got to be a moment though. Like you don't win forever, right? There's a point
I'm with
when you lose.
That's what I'm saying. You've talked to me. No, you actually haven't talked to me anyway. But his running has, Hopple just won't go away.
Yeah,
Hopple will not go away. I mean, to like use your car analogy, it's like a car you keep waiting to, you think it might break down. It just like keeps showing up and like will not die. And that's Hopple. And then I think there's a good chance that he's going to take another step up. Also, this is the latest installment, the latest chapter in like, who do you favor in these 800-meter races? The front runner or the kicker?
Yeah.
I mean, Brazier could be a kicker too, but he has preferred in recent years to just go from the front. And will that make a difference? With 100 to go and Hopple's bearing down on you, that's tough because Hopple's kick is top notch. And will there be some stylistic decision making? Like, will Brazier, if the gap gets closed, will Brazier maybe go out a little bit more conservative and be the hunter instead of the hunted?
You ready for my take? My take of 2021? It's not a real take, but it's kind of.
I'm kind of worried at the trajectory of these takes.
Hopple has a better chance of beating Brazier in the Olympic final than he does in the trials final.
I actually think the opposite.
No.
But
I think there's a mental component that's probably going through Brazier's head is that the trials are just a stepping stone to the Olympics. And I think...
Right, so why wouldn't it be easier to get beaten there?
I think because of that reason, I think he is going to be... You're not going to be he's not going to overthink it.
Okay.
And I think if he's just like not overthinking it, he's like, I come here, I get the job. I think I think you might overthink the Olympic final. That's what I think.
See, I think the opposite. I think you'd overthink the trials because there's the whole top three element. Third is as good as first. Trying to figure that out. Oh, you come in, your quad is a little sore.
Yeah.
Like how are you managing the rounds? Yeah. Okay, let's go to what we got. 2 more here, 4 and 5. I'll go Trayvon Bromell with 4. Ran 650 in that final, so didn't set a season's best. Again, not too sure how quick this track was, but the second half of his 60, you talk about good kicks. Talk about Bryce Hopple's kick. What about Trayvon Bromell's kick in the last 30? He just jetted out of there. He pushed the turbo button, and nobody was near him. Of course, Noah Lyles didn't make the final of this race, so it was missing the main person who we thought could contend with him. But if you're speculating,
Lyles wasn't running the 60.
Well, he did run the 60. He didn't make the final.
Yeah, but that was proof that Lyles wasn't there for a 60. He was there for the 200.
The 200, you think so? Okay, well, anyway, my point being, I hope you bought your Bromell stock last year. Because right now...
To the moon. We're going to the moon. Bromell, we're taking it to the moon. Hold the line.
Rocket ship emoji. He is... I'm not, until I see something outdoors, I'm not going to call him a favorite yet. I'm sticking with co-favorite. I know you've already decided this in your head, but I'm just saying I'm keeping him as co-favorites. But that was good. That second half was mighty good. You could see that going on for 100 meters and that gap getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Bromel's the favorite. No, I mean, you think he's co-favorites with Noah Lyles. He just raced Noah Lyles and he smoked him. I know it's only 60 meters. Noah Lyles is not. He's coming down into Trayvon's territory. Like, if Trayvon was going up against Noah Lyles in a 200, it would look like this, but opposite, right? It would just be like I don't know. I shouldn't doubt Noah, but I just think he is not. Well, he's not there yet to be able to challenge. I mean, he wasn't able to challenge really Christian Coleman that much, right? And I think
he beat him once.
Yeah, but like,
I beat him once. Every time it looked like he was getting going in the 100, it was okay. The focus is now on the 200.
Yeah.
That's how it felt to me. Remember, he was going to run that 100 in Monaco, and then after he ran that 100 in Monaco, he was going to make the decision, and then it didn't go that well, so he decided. Yeah, I mean, Lyles' best running is in the second half of races, but I've also seen him, run really good in tight moments. They have the same PB.
I think Lyles won't be.
He's going to run both.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the thing. So there's not going to be that, he's just not going to do it. So
I think Lyles is going to be his best 100 meter and still like a year or two away from being in his best 100 meter form.
All right.
That's what I think.
Fair. I'm still sticking with co-favorites until further notice. Okay. Number 5. This is tough. I mean, Kenny Harrison ran 782 in the 60 hurdles. She looked like the world record holder in the high hurdles, which she is. Well, not the 60 hurdles, but you know what I mean. Anyway, but then Shawnee Miller-Weibo, 50.2. Ajay Wilson, just a very comfortable 201.
Yeah,
what else?
She ran the same time as a college freshman in college.
Well, college freshman is in college. You're correct. Look, different tracks, Gordon. I'm trying to teach you these things about how these tracks are different. Not all tracks are created equal, and you're trying to make it seem like they are. Okay, you can pick which one of the remaining races. Which one?
Of college? I mean, pro.
Pro. We're done with college.
I mean, I think that's it. We don't have to do 5.
Okay.
Like,
I just wanted to name. I just wanted to name some other things. Lyles ran 20.8, but he wore Dunder Mifflin socks. I thought that was cool. Sydney, I'm still unclear because in the press conference, I think she implied like she meant to jump off the opposite leg the whole way, but then I saw an Instagram post and the way she phrased it was almost like it was an accident or something. I don't know. It was hard to tell, but it also is interesting. You're so used to them being these people who are dominant. They're good at everything all the time. You throw them in this event, throw them out in the event. Oh, she's running the fast 200. She's running a fast flat 400. She's running a 4 hurdle. Oh, the 4x4. All those are in the neighborhood, but they're different events. And it was weird to see her actually struggle in an event and finish last. And then she ended up pulling out of the 500, which is your annual favorite event. I know the 500 at the New Balance Indoor Grand Prix. And then Lyles is 200. He did the ho-hum gesture afterwards. He wasn't too excited with that 20.8, but I think for a lot of people you could tell of who's really all in on indoors and who this was just a stop along the way, basically.
Yeah. I want to give another shout out to my girl, Abby Steiner. She ran the collegiate best again in the 200. She's making the Olympic team in 2021 that no one's talking about. And so far,
but you are talking about it.
So far, she's on that train. So I'm riding the Abby Steiner train. She's going to win NCAA indoors. She's going to win NCAA outdoors. And then she's going to make the 200-meter team.
Norman and Benjamin, 1-2.
Sorry.
I didn't change lot of team points.
I was trying to think of other things that happened. I mean, I'm not going to – it's just hard to talk –
You're going back to college. You're going back to college.
But like,
on pros.
it's hard for me to talk about Norman and Benjamin running 45-second 400s.
What does that mean for the team title for USC? Go.
It's just like not as like I know. Just because they're pros and they ran doesn't mean we need to talk about it. Like
well, we're not talking about everybody.
Well, you're trying to list everything off. You're trying to be
that's it.
Okay,
that's it. I'm not gonna talk about
the 2 mile.
Like I have like 5 events listed.
2 mile. You're not gonna talk about that.
I'm not gonna. Okay, let's talk about Justin Knight. I like Justin Knight. He's a good guy. He won the 2 mile. Good job. Good close from Justin Knight there. Beats Klecker. Beats Morgan McDonald. A lot of recent college guys there for you. You just want to talk about college all day long, Gordon.
No. you know.
You're an NCAA fan. That's what it is. I think you're all in on the NCAA. Okay. Well, you don't want to mention anything else? You can. I'll open the floor now to you. College
What do you think is the reason? I already talked about this. That the fastest quarter miler in the world, and maybe potentially in the world all time, on the same weekend will run the same time as a college freshman. I'm talking about Shawnee Miller-Uibo running 50.2 and a Thing Mu running it's a 4x4 split, but split 50.2.
Well, that's part of it.
Yeah, that's part of it, but like
the other part of it,
same range. Like, why does that happen?
Quarter milers, when they're pros, don't really put as much attention at all on indoors. I think there's a difference in tracks that makes a bit of difference as well too. That's what I would mention. And I think peaking, we've seen this because this happens every single year. And it happens at the beginning of the outdoor season. Peaking matters because everyone's like, ooh, like you go to the Texas relays. Those college kids are there, Gordon. You look at the college heats, they're actually faster than the pro heats. And then what happens when the trials come around?
Yeah.
Some college kids do well. Some college kids definitely do well, and a few make the team. I'm not saying they don't. But usually there is a regression to the mean. And the NCAA kids slide back a little bit. And the pros, they know what they're doing, and they're ready in time.
Yeah.
But also, a Thing Mo is a generational talent, too.
Yeah.
So it's not just like any 400-meter runner out there just stumbled onto the track at Texas A&M and ran 50 point. She ran an all-time mark.
Well, yeah,
but all-time mark for a reason.
You could also
it's all-time mark for a reason.
You could look at whoever finished fourth in that race and compare it to a
Shawnee Miller-Uibo? Shawnee Miller-Uibo would beat him.
No, whoever finished fourth in the women's 400 race, and then just not a Thing Mu type 400 meter run. It's just like, I don't know. I just can't grab my head around having to see college kids and pros consistently always be at the same level. And I'm just always thinking like, I just feel like every time I watch a pro race, everyone should be better than the college kids. But it doesn't happen in track, and and I think there's a lot of situations. I know there's gonna be a college kid here who's just like all time great. Like it's more of a compliment to the college kid. But like there's just a lot of times when there's pro people who are just running slow, and we just like
that's true.
Ignore but also, it. It's just weird because we can like.
What if I told you this though? What if I also said there's some events where that age range is the peak for those athletes, a la the 400 usually. Look at how many 400-meter men ran their PR in college versus when they're pros. It's not at a certain point, it's not a coincidence.
Yeah.
At a certain point, you have to say the Michael Johnsons, the LaShawn Merritts of the world are the exceptions. And you go back to what Karani James did in college. You go back to what Jeremy Warner did in college. The list goes, Fred Curley. The list goes on and on and on. It could just be that that's the age where they thrive, and thus the gap is smaller.
Yeah, it's like
because
gymnastics.
you don't see, right? Because you're not. Wouldn't you say it's more rare when you go up in distance or down in distance from that to see those marks?
Wait, what?
Like the men's 5,000, you're probably going to get a pro leading the way.
Yeah.
Indoors, even though it's indoors,
yeah.
Right? The women's 1,500, you shot Gudolf Sagai run 3:53. You're probably not going to see that in the NCAA. So maybe it's a 400-meter issue.
Like 400 down, or
I mean, I think around the 400, right? Because when you get low, when you get into like the 100 and stuff, strength has such a big deal.
Yeah.
Or such a heavy influence on it that it seems like they need a couple more years in the weight room to really get competitive. Not everybody, but just to answer your last point there of why does it seem to happen, not just at the top, but maybe the second, third, or fourth. But I also think the margin is pretty small between using this as a training run and really going all in as a race. And when you just use something like Shawnee Miller in a training run and a Thing Mo going all out trying to qualify, they're going to be close.
Yeah.
They're going to be close because Shawnee Miller, Weibo is good, but the Thing Mo is really good as well too. And when she's geared up for it, there's a big It's like the Sixers, right? So it's like the Sixers. If you're comparing them to like their West Coast road trip versus how they're going to be in the playoffs,
okay, yeah, all right.
It's not the same thing. That's what I'm saying. It's just athletes can kind of turn it on and off, and you see when people are going through the motions and they're just running because they're either there's a sponsorship obligation or because they just want to get a race in with other people just to get that feeling versus how they're going to be in a couple months. But I think what happens is we paint such a broad brush one way or the other.
Yeah.
Of like, oh, you need 3 races to get ready, or oh, you should be ready right away, and it's just different for different people. But like, is anybody going to be talking about this meet in 2 months, let alone by the Olympics?
Let alone by tomorrow?
No one's. Well, I might text you some last thoughts. I actually ranked the top 17 performances, and I'm going to reveal them to you tomorrow. But yes, it's like ultimately, who cares? Anyway, all right, we'll leave it there. The email address is flotrackpodcast@gmail.com. You can also find us on YouTube, where you can comment. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We might be back on Wednesday. We also might not. Friday we will not have a show though because we will be on location in Las Vegas. Gordon, do you want to tell everybody right now, just so you can say it right now, how people can consume the coverage?
Oh yeah, we're gonna film the races and then we're gonna put them up, and it's not gonna be live.
Okay.
It's gonna be archived.
Yes, and you're gonna put them up as fast as you can.
Yeah, as fast as I'm going to sprint to the Wi-Fi. Fast as I can.
No, see, now it sounds like you're being sarcastic. Can you be serious here and tell people?
Well, I'm going to put them as fast as I can. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. He really is. But it's not going to be live.
Yeah.
It's not going to be live.
Yeah, no live. Just archive.
Cart cam.
It's going to be great.
Yeah. All right. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.
Later.
Maybe.